Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating thought experiment. It creatively imagines America's historical presidents, everyone from George Washington all the way to modern leaders, sitting down together to figure out the nation's next 250 years. It's a profound look at the future of self-government, and honestly, it's a fantastic read. So let's just jump right in.
Now, as the U.S. approaches its 250th anniversary, the text poses a pretty massive question. Can a republic born way back then still renew itself today? I mean, after centuries of conflict and incredible achievement, how do we honor the Declaration of Independence? Not just as some old piece of parchment, but as an active, living promise.
To wrap our heads around this imaginary dialogue, we're going to break it down into 5 core pillars. First up, the courage to begin again. Then, habits of self-government. Third, dialogue over chaos. Fourth, why leaders serve the people. And finally, a vision for a future of renewal.
All right, let's hit section 1, the courage to begin again. We're focusing on foundational ideals here, where the author imagines the founding fathers and Abraham Lincoln talking about the sheer courage it actually takes to sustain a republic when times get tough.
What's super interesting here is the argument made by the imagined John Adams and Abraham Lincoln. They're saying, look, we absolutely cannot treat our history like a museum. Think about it. In a museum, you're just a spectator passively looking at artifacts behind glass. But the founders didn't write the Declaration for spectators. Instead, our history has to be a living memory. It's an active, daily responsibility that we literally carry into the future. The imagined Abraham Lincoln puts it so perfectly here. He says, the past becomes living memory when it asks something of us. Basically, having gratitude for liberty isn't just about feeling nostalgic. It's a conscious decision to become worthy of what was handed down to us. It challenges us to look at the past not as a closed book, but as a mirror, asking, okay, what are we going to do next? Moving right along to section 2, habits of self-government. This part is all about daily discipline, and the text shifts focus to 20th century presidents discussing the practical, everyday habits you actually need to keep a nation free.
The source is very clear that citizenship is not a spectator sport. It's an active duty, and it requires a few specific habits. Things like choosing courage over fear, practicing active listening, actually trying to see the humanity behind the political labels, and having the patience to realize that, hey, no single person or generation owns the whole country. We're a team. Which brings us to this really great concept called cheerful responsibility. The imagined voice of Ronald Reagan challenges us to stop the cynical finger-pointing. Instead of asking, who can I blame, we should be asking, what can I do? Because national renewal doesn't just magically happen in Capitol buildings. It starts at our kitchen tables, through everyday, local acts of civic courage. Okay, section 3, dialogue over chaos. Here, we're getting into the absolute necessity of civil discourse, with leaders like Ulysses S. Grant and Gerald Ford tackling the very real dangers of national division and resentment.
Now, there's a crucial distinction the text makes here. A free country absolutely needs fierce argument. We need passion. We have to debate things. But when that passion warps into hatred, when we start treating our fellow citizens like literal enemies, that is when liberty gets poisoned. Our arguments have to remain disciplined by a love for the country we all share.
The imagined words of Ulysses S. Grant really drive this home. No argument in a republic is worth losing the republic itself. Grant saw the ultimate devastating cost of the divided nation firsthand. So, this is a stark reminder that choosing dialogue and extending a little grace isn't a sign of weakness. It's actually the ultimate form of civic strength.
On to section 4, leaders serve the people. Let's talk about humility and accountability, as the author imagines figures like Harry Truman and Grover Cleveland discussing how public office should be handled.
I absolutely love this analogy from the imagined Harry Truman. Public office is not a throne, it is a desk. It's such a perfect encapsulation of reality, right? Despite how some politicians might act, they are just temporary servants. A president sits at that desk for a season, does the hard work, and then leaves. The government exists so leaders can serve the citizens, not the other way around.
And because of that dynamic, the text actually redefines the concept of a mandate. A mandate isn't a political trophy. It doesn't mean a leader suddenly owns the nation. The true authority always remains with the voting citizens. A mandate is simply the people collectively giving direction to their government, trusting a leader to deliver results while staying humble.
Finally, we reach section 5, a future of renewal.
This is where we cast a vision for tomorrow, bringing together thoughts from modern presidents on how to hand down a resilient, hopeful nation to the next generation.
The text draws a very hard line here. An obsessive focus on past grievances fundamentally blocks us from building a stronger future. Think of it like this. Revenge looks backward at old wounds, obsessing over who should pay. But renewal builds forward. It asks, what must be built? A healthy republic simply cannot run on retaliation. It has to move forward.
So the big takeaway is that the American experiment is a totally unfinished project. And honestly, the fact that the nation isn't perfect isn't a reason to despair. It just means hope still has work to do. We are not managing a decline. We are constantly building, constantly saying, we are not finished yet.
As the text reminds us, bringing it back to Abraham Lincoln, a republic is never kept by memory alone. It is kept by the living. You can't just inherit a free country and expect it to run on autopilot. It takes millions of daily choices from all of us to listen, to serve, to vote carefully, and to fix injustice without resorting to hatred.
Ultimately, the future of the whole thing sits squarely in our hands. So I want to leave you with this final thought from our explainer today. As we look toward the next 250 years, will Americans use their freedom to tear one another down, or will we rise to the occasion and build a country worthy of our children?